On July 14th, 2009, Stan Bowman became the general manager of the Chicago Blackhawks, replacing Dale Talon, who was controversial in his own right. Bowman had been part of the Blackhawks organization since 2000, serving as a GM assistant or an assistant to the GM in those years. Bowman would go on to win 3 Stanley Cups with the Blackhawks, but much of the players that would define those Stanley Cup years were already on the team. Players like Kane, Tays, Sharp, Versteeg, Campbell, Ladd, Keith, Byfuglien, Seabrook, Hjalmarsson, Niemi, and Crawford were already on the team before Bowman was given the full reins. Yet Bowman gets his name on the Stanley Cup 3 times for the Hawks dynasty. In 2009, the Blackhawks had made the conference finals, so Bowman was stepping into a pretty good situation. About 2 weeks before Bowman was made the GM, Marian Hossa was signed. Hossa was arguably the missing piece for the Blackhawks to start winning Stanley Cups, and while he first started playing when Bowman was GM, he was not signed by Bowman. In this video, we will look at the timeline of trades during Stan Bowman's tenure as the general manager of the Chicago Blackhawks. In this Cup-winning season, Stan Bowman only made one impactful trade during the season, trading Cam Barker for Kim Johnson and Nick Leddy. Leddy was not a part of this Stanley Cup winning team, but he was a good player to acquire and would be a solid part of this team in the future. So 1 cup for Bowman with basically 0 additions to this actual team. Of course, after winning the Stanley Cup, it's time to unload some of these players. In the summer, Bowman makes a big trade to move on from Dustin Byfuglien and Brent Sopel. Sopel was aging, but Byfuglien was a young, huge player that provided a lot of grittiness for the Blackhawks. The Hawks got back a first, a second, and Jeremy Morin. That first became Kevin Hayes, which was decent, but Morin didn't turn out and Byfuglien ended up having a pretty good career. Bowman wasn't done this offseason though. He traded a 30th overall pick to the Islanders for 2 seconds, and the Islanders chose Brock Nelson with that pick. Decent little player, that Brock Nelson. He's only an Olympic gold medalist. He also sent Kris Versteeg to Toronto for a package that included Victor Stalberg. Stalberg was a decent player, but definitely a downgrade from Versteeg. Don't worry though, we still have one more for the summer. Bowman shipped away Andrew Ladd to the Thrashers as well, receiving a pick and Wisniewski back. And that was about it for the offseason and even the regular season. Of course, there are some smaller trades happening during all of this, but I want to focus on the important ones. The offseason unloading undoubtedly hurt the Blackhawks, especially losing Ladd and Byfuglien, who would be huge players for the Thrashers and then the Jets. All this did was help the Blackhawks lose to the Vancouver Canucks in the first round. I just want to take a quick second to say that only 0.2% of my viewers are subscribed. So Scott Stevens, check the subscribe button so this channel can get off the floor and on the board. Thank you all so much for your support so far. After being eliminated in the first round, Bowman once again got to work over the summer. He traded away Brian Campbell to the Florida Panthers for Rostislav Olesh. Campbell was a great offensive defenseman and a key part on that 2010 roster. So of course, he traded for Olesh, who would only play 6 games for the Hawks. He did pick up Kopecky for a 7th rounder though, which is a decent little addition to the bottom 6. During the season, he traded a 2nd and a 3rd for Johnny Oduya, who was a fan favorite, but this is definitely an overpay for a 3rd pairing defenseman. And these moves once again resulted in the Hawks losing in the first round. Because of the 2012-2013 lockout, Bowman wouldn't make a trade for almost an entire year, and it took him a year of consideration to make a good trade, trading a 4th round pick for Michael Handzus. Not a huge contributor, but he was definitely a positive addition to the team. And that was really it. Handzus had 11 points in 23 playoff games, but this was the Blackhawks' best season in these years, winning the President's Trophy and the Cup. But the most important additions to the team were drafted players. Saad, Bickle, and Shaw became prominent members of the roster, and were the main reason that the Blackhawks were able to perform so well this season. After winning the Stanley Cup, the next steps are obvious. Tear it down. Over the summer, Bowman started tearing down the Blackhawks' depth, trading away Frolik and Boland on the same day, and then Daniel Carcillo a couple weeks later. All 3 of these trades were for draft picks that became nothing, and only hurt the Hawks' depth that was not only beloved by the fans, but also defined the Hawks' identity. During the season, Bowman trades to reacquire Kris Versteeg, who is now 3 years older than he was when the Hawks traded him away. This starts the horrible Bowman habit of trading away players and then trading back for them years later, but we'll get into that. During the season, Bowman doesn't do much, and the Hawks only make the conference finals. They went to 7 games with the Kings and were only 1 win away from making the finals again. Getting even one solid piece during the season could have really helped the Hawks get to the finals again. Bowman actually finally has a quiet summer and doesn't have any big trades until the regular season when he trades away Nick Leddy, which is a loss of a good player. But in late February, Bowman has arguably his best trades for the Blackhawks, picking up Antoine Vermette and Kimmo Timonen for some picks and Dahlbeck. Both of them were key role players for the Blackhawks playoff run and this third Stanley Cup. Timonen also has his moment finally lifting the cup here, and the Blackhawks and Bowman get their third cup. The Blackhawks just won a Stanley Cup, so guess what? Time to unload. Part of this unload was due to the new contract signed by Patrick Kane and Jonathan Toews. I understand that they won cups, but this feels like a little bit of an overpay, especially considering what we know now. The year before, Crosby signed an AAV at $8.7 million a year, and 3 years later, McDavid would sign for $12.5 a year. I just feel like in 2014, $9 million a year would have been more appropriate and would have helped keep this team together, because Bowman has the ultimate unloading this summer. First was trading away Brandon Saad, who was considered the next Toews at the time for a bunch of assets. Anisimov was decent, but there's not much besides that. They get Jeremy Morin back for some reason a few years after they got rid of him. Next is Patrick Sharp, who the Hawks traded for not really anything as well. And to top it all off, the Blackhawks have to basically pay to get rid of Versteeg, giving the Hurricanes a third-round pick to give him away. These 3 trades are all bad, especially the Saad one. I get trading Sharp and Versteeg while they were aging, but Saad was on the upward trajectory, and getting rid of him not only hurt the Blackhawks, but it also seemed to hurt his growth as a player. I'm not saying he was going to be the next Toews, but sending him to Columbus really stopped the upward momentum he had in his career so far. And during the season, it doesn't get much better. Because guess who's back? Andrew Ladd. 5 years after getting rid of him, and 5 years older, Bowman brings back Ladd for this playoff run. Also paid Phil Deneau and a second-round pick for Weiss and Fleischmann. Thank God Deneau never turned into anything. And these deals give the Hawks a first-round loss again against the St. Louis Blues. It is the summer, and Stan Bowman is in charge, so guess what he does? Unloads. This time, he makes it a mix of vets and young players. Bowman unloads Shaw, Bickle, and Teravainen for picks. The Hawks' steady stream of draft picks that were able to come into the lineup and make a difference, and now they are gone. Saad, Teravainen, and Shaw all gone within a couple years. All guys that could complement Toews for years to come. Luckily, they recently acquired Panarin, who won the Rookie of the Year over McDavid and had great chemistry with Patrick Kane. But this year, they got swept in the first round. After getting swept, Bowman unloaded a few important players. First is Nicholas Hjalmarsson to Arizona for Dauphin, who was a decent prospect at the time, and Connor Murphy, who would be a staple on the Hawks defense for years to come. But then, this is the big one, Bowman traded Artemi Panarin, Tyler Mott, and a 6th-round pick for Brandon Saad, Anton Forsberg, and a 5th-round pick. Panarin had all the potential in the world, and Saad was 2 years older than he was when we traded him away, and Bowman basically traded them 1-for-1 with a couple of extras thrown in on both sides. Panarin was the golden star for the future of the Blackhawks. Coming off of a dynasty and then having someone with upside like Panarin was the jackpot of all jackpots for this team. But Bowman got rid of him for a player who used to be on the team. Bowman just cannot resist getting back old players, and this is an egregious example of this. Panarin wasn't demanding a trade, and this is still all they could get for him. During the season, he picks up Anthony Duclair for Richard Panik and Dauphin, who was just traded for from the Coyotes a few months before. I like Duclair, so I'm fine with this, but he is not on the team for long. What is notable about this season is that Hossa stops playing. He was a huge part of the team, and that definitely doesn't help. But to be fair, he was aging and probably wouldn't have been playing for much longer anyways. Either way, the Hawks are not in a horrible position. Their drafting is always good, so they have guys like Alex DeBrincat, Nick Schmaltz, Ryan Hartman, and Anthony Duclair who are skilled guys with potential. Especially DeBrincat, who is a star at this point. They could conceivably ride with some of these guys, but Bowman doesn't even get through the season without starting to unload some of them. In a deal with Nashville, Hartman is traded for a first-round pick, and with that pick, the Hawks take Nicholas Boudin, who played 22 games in the NHL, so basically Hartman for nothing, and the Blackhawks missed the playoffs. The summer of 2018 is pretty quiet, but now it's time to move on from another young player. Jordan Schmaltz is traded for Dylan Strome and Brandon Perlini. Now Strome is a good player, and has been a great fit for Washington, but he just did not work out with the Hawks. And Schmaltz was doing completely fine. It's just trading players for the sake of trading players. He also traded away Darren Radish, who is a beast now, but I won't get too mad at him for that because who would have predicted how Darren Radish would be? At the beginning of the season, Joel Quenneville is also fired, signifying the downfall of the Blackhawks. Bowman has an interesting summer in 2019. He trades away Gustav Forsling, who turned out to be a really good player, but he wasn't expected to be good, so not too bad. But Forsling and Radish were two players who were given up on way too early. Bowman also reacquired Andrew Shaw for a second, a seventh, and a third. A super overpay for an aging Andrew Shaw. The attempts to reclaim the glory days with these players who are many years older is honestly sad. The Hawks technically make the playoffs because of the COVID seeding. They beat Edmonton in the qualifying round and then lose to Vegas in 5. In this season, Jonathan Toews begins to have health issues, so he does not play the entire year. During the season, the Hawks trade Brandon Saad for Nikita Zadorov, which is a pretty good deal in my opinion. Zadorov is a solid, huge defenseman and is currently in a more prominent role than Brandon Saad, but Zadorov won't be there long. Summer 2021 is the final push for Bowman before he resigns as GM for his involvement in the abuse of Kyle Beach, and Bowman makes a couple of trades just for fun. Bowman unloads Duncan Keith to the Oilers for basically Caleb Jones. He makes a massive trade for Seth Jones, but Jones doesn't really work out in Chicago. Seabrook is retiring, so he dumps his salary for Tyler Johnson in a second. Vegas is dumping Fleury, so he picks him up for Dust. And finally, one of his only decent trades is undone as he trades Nikita Zadorov for a third-round pick. And that is it for Bowman in Chicago. In 2024, he is signed by the Edmonton Oilers, and we see how that is going. Trading for Tristan Jarry to fix his goalie problems, and it might be the end for him soon. But I have to question, why was he signed in the first place? Besides his last name and the Blackhawks Stanley Cups, I would argue that there is nothing on Bowman's resume that would make me want him as a GM. He inherited an already good team and basically got lucky that he won 3 cups. Without Bowman, the Blackhawks could have won 5 Stanley Cups, to be honest. Ethically, Bowman is a problematic human being, but I feel like his GM track record is almost just as bad. Thank you so much for watching. Comment your thoughts below, like if you enjoyed, and subscribe for more content.